I'm going to have a word of prayer and I will get started. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, as we come to you, Lord, this afternoon, Lord, we pray for your guidance, Lord, for your grace, Lord, to be with us, Lord, to draw closer to you, Lord, that we can know more about our bodies, Lord, mentally, physically, Lord, and spiritually. Thank you for what you have done and what you continue to do. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. So our topic today is going to be diabetes, treatments and formulas. And the diabetes is the sweet killer. But our goal, and that's the main topic of this presentation. So we know that diabetes is the sweet killer, but we want to defeat it. We want to reverse the condition to get rid of it. And to do that, we're going to have to learn about it. So we're going to go through a few things. We'll learn about the key players of diabetes. And I'm going to come back and ask you questions about some of these things. So, try to take in some of the information. I know it's going to be a lot of information, but try to take in it as much as possible because this is going to be important. So our first thing that we need to know about is glucose. Glucose is a simple sugar. Glucose is a most abundant monosaccharide, subcategory of carbohydrates. Glucose is mainly made by plants and most algae doing photosynthesis from water and carbon dioxide using energy from sunlight. So again, what is glucose? We don't need to know about monosaccharides and carbohydrates, algae photosynthesis. That's not the main point. We need to know what is glucose, and it's a simple sugar. That's really all you need to remember. Glucose is a simple sugar. And so if you remember that, then we can go forward. So I'm going to ask that question again later. So just keep that one in mind. The cell, from Latin cella, meaning small room, is the most basic structural, functional, and biological unit of all known living organisms. A cell is the smallest unit of life, and cells are often called the building blocks of life. The study of cells is called cell biology. An antibody also known as immunoglobulin, is a Y-shaped protein produced mainly by the plasma cells. It is used by the immune system to neutralize pathogens such as bacteria and viruses. A hormone produced by the pancreas called insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas in the islets of Langerhans, which regulates the amount of glucose in the blood. The lack of insulin causes a form of diabetes. So glucose and insulin are going to be our main things that we need to know. And we're going to cover it a few times. The insulin is really important. It's made by your pancreas in the islets of Langerhans. And so those are little clusters of cells in your pancreas. And they look like this. You have the beta cells, the delta cells, alpha cells, capillaries. And the beta cells particularly, they make insulin. And that is what your body uses to control your blood sugar. But we'll come back over this. First things first, what is diabetes? Diabetes mellitus, sometimes called sugar diabetes, is a condition that occurs when the body can't use glucose normally. So does anyone know what glucose is? Maybe someone in the chat will be able to say it. What is glucose? Anyone in the chat? Simple sugar. Exactly. It's a simple sugar. Glucose is the main source of energy for the body's cells. The levels of glucose in the blood are controlled by a hormone called insulin, which is made by the pancreas. Insulin helps glucose, that is a simple sugar, enter the cells. When someone has diabetes, the pancreas does not make enough insulin. That would be type 1 diabetes. Or the body can't respond normally to the insulin that is made, and that would be type 2 diabetes. This causes glucose levels in the blood to rise, leading to symptoms such as increased urination, extreme thirst, and unexplained weight loss. So this is a lot of information, but we're going to go back over it, so don't worry. Type 1 diabetes, also called juvenile onset diabetes mellitus, With this type, the pancreas undergoes an autoimmune attack by the body itself and is rendered incapable of making insulin. It is believed that the tendency to develop abnormal antibodies, which attack the pancreas in type 1 diabetes, is in part genetically inherited, though the details are not fully understood. So type 1 diabetes, it usually happens in children. Usually the person will have it early on, and they'll be able to, they have certain symptoms that they'll get. They'll get checked out as a child and they'll be diagnosed with diabetes. So we're not going to really focus on type 1 diabetes that much in this presentation, but we will go back over some of this, but mainly we're going to be talking about type 2 diabetes. So in type 1 diabetes, what happens is we have the islets of Langerhans, and these are the beta cells that produce insulin. And so the antibodies, which are a part of our immune system, they attack those cells and they damage them. So this is not what's supposed to happen, but something causes the immune system not to work properly. So if you've heard of a white blood cell or a leukocyte, those are the cells that get rid of germs and bacteria in our body. That's their purpose. And antibodies, they work alongside the immune system to get rid of viruses and bacteria. But if they don't function properly, they attack the body itself, and this is going to cause type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a slow, progressive form of type 1 diabetes. So what is type 1 diabetes? It's slow, it's progressive. So it doesn't work like type 1, which happens very quickly and instantly. You get diagnosed. Instead, it's something that takes a lot longer of time. So you want to remember that. What is type 2 diabetes? What makes it different than type 1? It's slow, progressive. It's not as quick and instantaneous as type 1. Type 2 diabetes was also referred to as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. In type 2 diabetes, the patients can't still produce insulin, but do relatively inadequately for their body's needs. So they can still produce insulin, but do so relatively inadequately for their body's needs. In many cases, this actually means the pancreas produces larger than normal quantities of insulin. A major feature of type 2 diabetes is the lack of sensitivity to insulin by the cells of the body, particularly the fat and muscle cells. In addition, the release of insulin by the pancreas may also be defective and subtemporal. Of all the patients with diabetes, only approximately 10% have type 1, and the remaining 90% have type 2. So because it's something that deals more with our lifestyle choices, and as humanity, we're prone to make bad choices. This is the one that's going to be far more common than type 1. So I'm going to give you guys like an illustration of how diabetes works. So what we have here is a normal system. And so this red thing here is a symbol of your cell, right? This is an illustration of what your cell would look like. And you have insulin up at the top here, and then you have glucose on the other side, and then you have these different colored things. One of them is the receptor. So what happens in a normal system is the insulin will connect to your receptor, a door will open, and the glucose will get led into the cell. That's what's supposed to happen. So insulin will be produced by the pancreas. It opens the door. It's like a key that opens the door, and that key lets the glucose get into your cells. You feel energized. You feel good, and that's a normal process. Okay. But let's say you have type 1 diabetes. What's going to happen is there's no insulin, or there's not very much insulin in the body. And so that door can't open. The door can't open. The glucose can't get into the cells. It's going to bounce off and go back into your bloodstream. And this is going to cause type 1 diabetes. So it's really simple, really simple. Hopefully you're able to remember that. It's not too complicated. Of course, this is a simplified version of what happens, but this is a simplified explanation of that. So Let's say you have type 2 diabetes. Uh, you might have some insulin, but the receptor doesn't work properly. There's something wrong with the receptor. The key, it can't hook into the lock, and then a door still doesn't open, and the glucose can't get into the cells. It just won't connect. And your body's going to start to produce more insulin to try to compensate for the fact that some of the receptors aren't working properly. But that's going to cause problems later on. So prediabetes. Prediabetes means you have a blood glucose or blood sugar levels that are higher than normal, but not high enough to be called diabetes. If you have prediabetes, you're more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Most people with prediabetes don't have any symptoms. Losing to at least 5 to 10% of your starting weight can help reverse prediabetes. That's 10 to 20 pounds for someone who weighs 200 pounds. You can lose weight by cutting down on the amount of calories and fat you eat and being physically active at least 30 minutes a day. Being physically active makes your body's insulin work better. Your doctor may also prescribe medicine to help control the amount of glucose in your blood. So basically, prediabetes is before you get diabetes. Prediabetes is like an onset, not as a serious form, right? Your blood sugar levels is going up, and it's staying up a lot longer, but it's not staying there permanently. It starts to slowly go back down. But this is a sign that you're almost into um, diabetes. Diabetes is when you really have it where it's going to go up and it might not go down. But pre-diabetes, it's going to stay up for a little bit longer than it should, and then it'll go down later. So the A1C test is a common blood test used to diagnose type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and then gauge how well you're managing your diabetes. The A1C test goes by many other names, including glycated hemoglobin, glycated hemoglobin, hemoglobin A1C, and HbA1c. The A1C test reflects your average blood sugar levels for the past 2 to 3 months. Specifically, the A1C test measures what percentage of your hemoglobin, a protein in the red blood cells that carries oxygen, is coated with sugar or glycated. The higher the A1C level, the poorer your blood sugar control and the higher your risk of diabetes complications. So basically, what this is saying is you go into the hospital, go to your doctor, and he's going to do a test on you that is going to gauge where your blood sugar levels are staying for about 2 to 3 months. So if it's staying, like let's say, and this is the gauge here, 5.7, that's normal. But 5.7 and above, if it's staying in that range, that means you have prediabetes. And then 6.5 and above, that means you have diabetes. But it's not just testing, like, let's say you eat an apple. If you eat an apple right now, your blood sugar level is going to go up. And then it should go back down. That's what's supposed to happen. So it's not testing just for a day, but for 2 or 3 months. So you can say, okay, your blood sugar level is going up. And is it immediately going back down, or is it staying up for a long period of time? And if it's staying for a long period of time, that means you're going to have diabetes. Normal blood sugar levels, 65 to 95 range. Your fasting blood sugar levels ranges from 100 to 125. So this means, let's say you're not eating anything, and your blood sugar levels is still at 100 and 125 milliliters. That's not good because you're not eating. So if you're fasting, you're not eating anything, your blood sugar levels should go back down. It should to get lower. But if it's staying high and you haven't eaten, well, that's a sign of pre-diabetes. Then a diagnosis of diabetes is made usually when a blood sugar test is consistently above 126 milliliters. So it's staying high and it's not going down, even when when you're fasting. That means that there is a problem and you most likely have diabetes. So we're going to talk about some of the symptoms of diabetes. So one of the first symptoms of diabetes is frequent urination, right? So I don't know if anyone can turn their mic on if they um, want to actually answer the questions, but you can put it in the chat. I'm going to explain diabetes again, and then I want you to respond. What do you think is causing the condition? So let's say you have diabetes. That means that you have blood sugar. You eat something, and your blood sugar is not able to go down because the insulin is not able to open the door and let the glucose into your cells. So what's happening to that glucose? It's just going to float around in your bloodstream, right? So what's that going to cause? What do you think your body's doing by having frequent urination? Someone can say it in the chat, and I don't know if they can actually speak, but if not, just say it in the chat. What do you think your body's doing to give you frequent urination as a symptom of diabetes? If anyone thinks of anything, anyone at all. Detoxing. Okay, someone said detoxing. Trying to release the sugar in the urine. Okay, okay. So these are all the right things. So what your body is trying to do, it has this glucose in your blood, and it's trying to get rid of it. It's pulling water from the body, pulling water from the body. Okay, the body is trying to flush out the sugar from your bloodstream, dilute the concentration. There we go. So all those questions or all those responses are good. Those are what your body's trying to do. Is trying to get rid of the glucose, so it's going to send it into your urinary tract and just flush it out. And so that's going to cause you to go to the bathroom a lot. Now that leads us to the next symptom. What do you think that will cause? If you're going to the bathroom a lot, what other symptom might that cause for someone?
Dehydration.
Dehydration. So if you are going to the bathroom a lot, you're going to be dehydrated, and that's going to cause you to have increased thirst. And so increased thirst is a symptom of dehydration. So okay, let's go further than that. Let's say you're not getting enough glucose into the cells. What other symptom might that cause? Any other symptom that might cause?
Repeat the question, please.
So you are not getting glucose into the cells, which is supposed to give you energy, right?
Fatigue.
Fatigue. Okay, fatigue. That's one. What other symptom might it cause?
I see a lot of people putting stuff in the chat. They say
Dizziness.
dry skin, weight loss, hunger, dizziness,
Okay.
ulcer, bladder infection.
Okay. All of those are good. Hunger, dizziness, tiredness is going to cause increased hunger because you're not getting that the glucose in the cells that's supposed to give you energy, and so your body's going to want to eat to try to compensate for that to give you energy. It's going to cause weight loss problems because you're not getting that glucose in the cells. And for type 1 diabetes, particularly, that's going to cause you to lose weight in your muscles, fatigue, tiredness, because you're not getting that energy, blurred vision. And we're going to come back to that symptom later. Slow healing sores. So glucose, it starts to affect the blood vessels in your toes and your hands. Um, and that's going to start to interfere with your healing process and make you not heal properly.
Yeah. Can
Frequent
I ask a
infections.
question? I have a
Yes.
question. How do you determine when your urination is frequent? Like if one drinks a lot of water, they're likely going to be, well, at least speaking from
Yeah.
experience, when I drink adequate water,
Mm.
like a gallon a day or
Hmm.
100, what is it, ounces, um, I'm running to the bathroom very often. So how do you determine when it's just because you're hydrated
Mm-hmm.
versus when it's something else, like the diabetes symptom that you're mentioning?
Yeah, well, if you are drinking a lot of water, then that's probably going to be the reason. If you know that you're drinking a whole bunch of water and you're going to the bathroom, that is probably the reason. So even these symptoms in isolation, just saying you have increased hunger, that doesn't mean you have diabetes or unintended weight loss. That doesn't mean you have diabetes. It's when you have them all together and there's no other signs. If someone isn't drinking a lot of water and they're still going to the bathroom, then something's wrong. Even when you drink water, though, usually your body is able to hold it. And so if you're not able to hold the water for long, that could also be a sign of something else. So, I mean, but usually if you're drinking water, that's going to be the reason. But in this case, someone they're not really drinking a lot of water and they're still going to the bathroom constantly. Well, that's going to definitely be a sign of something certainly is wrong with them.
I see somebody else put something else in the chat saying damage to blood vessels and nerve cells, hence peripheral neuropathy.
Yes, and we're going to come to that too. It's going to cause damage to nerve cells, and that's connected with slow healing sores and frequent infections. Numbness or tingling in the feet is going to affect the blood vessels, and that's going to cause poor circulation. That'll give you numbness and tingling in the feet. And areas of darkened skin, usually in the armpits and the neck, and that has to do with dehydration, and there's also different hormone problems associated with that. So these are some of the symptoms. Now, just saying that, okay, I'm going to the bathroom, or I feel really hungry, I feel thirsty, just by themselves, that doesn't mean you have diabetes. So I don't want anyone to read this and think, okay, they get scared that they have diabetes. You want to, if you have all of these symptoms, and then you're having bad lifestyle choices, as we're going to cover later, then you really need to maybe get things checked out because diabetes is a silent killer. So that means that if you having symptoms now and you didn't have it before, that means you had diabetes for a long time and you didn't even know it. So these are things we need to be aware of, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have it, but it should something to be aware of. 1 million people in the United States have diabetes, but 8.1 million may be undiagnosed and unaware of their condition. About 1.4 million new cases of diabetes are diagnosed in the United States every year. More than 1 in every 10 adults who are over the age of 20 years old or older has diabetes. So on this Zoom meeting right now, we have 88 participants. And I'm going to guess that most of them are older. They might be 20 years old or older. I'm not sure. But let's on average, it's going to be that, right? So that means more than 10 adults. We have far more than 10 on this meeting right now. Someone here has diabetes. That's certain. Someone here in this Zoom channel has diabetes, or at the very least, they know someone who does. And that's going to be something we really need to think about. Let's say you're going to church. If you have more than 10 adults in your church, more than one person there is going to have diabetes. You go to the store, more than one person there is going to have diabetes. Uh, you at your job, more than one person there is probably has diabetes. Uh, Anywhere you go, there's going to be someone who's going to have this condition because on average, it's more than 10 adults have it, and they might be unaware of the fact they have it. And so we really need to have this information. You guys have a diabetes health month. That's really important because you need to be able to share this with people because this is a silent killer and it is affecting a lot of people all over the world. And while it's said that type 2 diabetes mostly occurs in individuals over 30 years old and older, and the incident increases with age, we're seeing an alarming number of patients with type 2 diabetes who are barely in their teen years. In fact, for the first time in history of humans, type 2 diabetes is now more common than type 1 diabetes in childhood. Most of these cases are a direct result of poor eating habits, higher body weight, and a lack of exercise. So this is not just something that older people are getting anymore, it's something that younger people are getting. And so it's a very serious problem. Some of the complications of chronic complications of diabetes. We get diabetic retinopathy, so that's going to be blindness. Remember that, okay? Diabetic retinopathy, that's blindness. Diabetic neuropathy, nerve damage. Diabetic nephropathy, kidney failure. Diabetic foot ulcers, gangrene. Cardiovascular disease, which is heart problems, and a shorter life. So this is going to, we talked about some of the other symptoms like increased thirst, hunger. Those things, they don't seem very serious to people. So it's like, well, okay. But when we start talking about diabetic retinopathy, you start going blind, nerve damage, gangrene, heart disease. These are some serious conditions, and so people will get more aware when that gets brought up. And this is starting to happen to children too. So we really do need to be aware of that. Eye complications. The major eye complication of diabetes is diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy occurs in patients who have had diabetes for at least 5 years. Diseased small blood vessels in the back of the eye cause leakage of protein in the blood and in the retina. Disease in these blood vessels also causes the formation of small aneurysms, microaneurysms, and new but brittle blood vessels, neovascularization, form. Spontaneous bleeding from the new and brittle blood vessels can lead to retinal scarring and retinal detachment. So basically, what that's saying is there's little blood vessels in your eye, and you can see it here on this graph. This is the back of someone's eye. And they get these little blood vessels. The glucose can get in those blood vessels, damage them, and then you have bleeding in the eye. And when there's bleeding in the eye, that's going to cause people to see like little black spots where they should be seeing something. They're just going to see a black spot covering that area, and they can't like turn around to try to see it. It's just going to be right in their vision. And so they often what they do to treat it, to treat diabetic retinopathy, a laser is used to destroy and prevent the reoccurrence and development of these small aneurysms and brittle blood vessels. Approximately 50% of patients with diabetes will develop some degree of diabetic retinopathy after 10 years of diabetes. And 80% of diabetics have diabetic retinopathy after 15 years of the disease. Poor control of blood sugar and blood pressure further aggravates eye disease in diabetes. I'm going to play this video here so you can get some more of an idea of what this condition is like.
Hi, my name's Imran and I'm an eye doctor. A lot of my patients are like Steve here.
Hello.
He's just been diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy and has a lot of questions. Hopefully in the next 3 minutes, we'll try and answer them all. Diabetes is a common disease and a lot of people affected lose their vision if they're not treated. There are almost 4 million diabetics in the UK and almost 500,000 of those don't know they have it. In the world, there's estimated to be about 500 million people with diabetes, which is about 1 in 10 of the world's population. Diabetics are 20 times more likely to lose their vision than the average person. Diabetic retinopathy is a term that's used to describe the retinal damage causing the vision loss. Some people are born with it, whilst others acquire the disease in later life. The body can't store the sugar from food and therefore it courses through the bloodstream. This sugar reacts with the walls of blood vessels as it does so, causing them to break down over time. Diabetic retinopathy is damage to the retina. As light rays come into the eye through the lens, they land on the retina to be turned into electrical signals to be sent to the brain. Arteries and veins bring oxygen nutrients to your retina, and diabetes damages and destroys these blood vessels. If the changes are severe, they'll affect the health of your retina, causing patients to lose their vision. Untreated diabetic retinopathy is one of the most common causes of blindness. You're at risk of getting diabetic retinopathy whether your diabetes is controlled by diet, tablets, or insulin. In short, yes, background diabetic retinopathy is the earliest stage of damage to your retina. With uncontrolled diabetes, this can progress to pre-proliferative retinopathy, which means that the blood vessel damage to the retina is worse. Proliferative diabetic retinopathy is more serious still and can result in you losing your vision. Sometimes, as the fluid leaks from the damaged blood vessels, it can also cause diabetic maculopathy. The macula is the small central part of the retina that you use to see things clearly. If you imagine the retina to be the size of a postage stamp, the macula is a pinprick in the middle. It's the most used area of the retina as the part you are now using to watch this video. With diabetic maculopathy, that area is damaged and you'll find it difficult to see faces or read words on a page. This requires close monitoring and intensive treatment. Treatment for proliferative retinopathy reduces the risk of sight loss, especially if it's given before your vision is affected. This could consist of laser treatment, which burns your peripheral retina to preserve your central vision, or injections into the eye to stop fluid from leaking into the retina and damaging it. The problem with diabetic retinopathy is that it doesn't usually...
Is the video playing for everyone? I see someone said the video is not playing.
It's playing, we can hear it.
Okay.
...or sight loss until it's reached an advanced stage. Unmonitored and untreated diabetic retinopathy can lead to blindness, so it's really important to make sure you attend all your appointments with your medical team. Controlling your blood sugar levels is essential. For every second your blood sugar is out of control, you are causing damage to your blood vessels. The level of fat and cholesterol in your blood...
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Some
they need
people
to check their device because the rest of us can.
Also needs to be controlled to protect your arteries and veins, and this also ties in with controlling your blood pressure. Also, if you smoke, stop. Not only will smoking make you go blind, it will also kill you. So there you go, a quick whirlwind guide to diabetic retinopathy. If you need more information, click on the links below and feel free to ask any questions and I'll try and get back to you. Till next time.
Okay, cataracts and glaucoma are also more common among diabetics. It's important to note that since the lens of the eye gets water through, if the blood sugar concentrations vary a lot, the lens of the eye will shrink and swell with fluid accordingly. As a result, blurry vision is very common in poorly controlled diabetes. Patients are usually discouraged from getting new eyeglasses prescriptions until their blood sugar is controlled. This allows for more accurate assessment of what kind of glasses and prescription is required. So it's not just diabetic retinopathy, it's also going to cause cataracts, glaucoma. These are also things you have to worry about with diabetes. Kidney damage. Kidney damage from diabetes is called diabetic nephropathy, the onset of kidney disease, and is extremely variable. Initially, diseased small blood vessels in the kidneys cause leakage of protein in the urine. Later on, the kidneys lose the ability to cleanse and filter blood. The accumulation of waste products in the blood leads to a need for dialysis. Dialysis involves a machine that serves the function of the kidneys by filtering and cleaning the blood. In patients who do not want to undergo chronic dialysis, kidney transplantation may be considered. I'm going to play this video here.
Diabetic nephropathy refers to the kidney damage caused by both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Because of the growing number of people affected by diabetes, diabetic nephropathy is currently the leading cause of end-stage renal disease in most developed countries around the world. Each kidney has millions of nephrons, each of which is served by a tiny capillary bed called a glomerulus. The tiny arteriole that approaches the glomerulus is called the afferent arteriole, A for approaching, and the arteriole that exits the glomerulus is called the efferent arteriole, E for exits. The glomeruli are a tiny cluster of capillaries that are physically supported by mesangial cells. So when blood is filtered, it moves through the endothelium lining the capillary, then through the basement membrane, and then through the epithelium lining the nephron, and finally into the nephron itself, at which point it's called filtrate. Now, the endothelium has pores that keep cells from entering the filtrate, and the basement membrane is negatively charged and repels other negatively charged molecules and proteins, like the protein albumin. Furthermore, the epithelium has a special cell type called a podocyte, which looks like an octopus because it has foot processes that wrap around the basement membrane, which leaves tiny gaps between its octopus-like projections called filtration slits. In diabetes mellitus, there's an excess of glucose in the blood because it can't get into cells. And when blood gets filtered through the kidneys, some of that excess glucose starts to spill into the urine, called glycosuria. In addition, when there's a lot of glucose in the blood, it also starts sticking to proteins in the blood, a process called non-enzymatic glycation, because no enzymes are involved. Because glucose can get through the endothelium, this process of glycation can also involve the basement membrane of small blood vessels, which makes it thicken. The process particularly affects the efferent arteriole, causing it to get stiff and more narrow, a process called hyaline arteriosclerosis. This creates an obstruction that makes it difficult for blood to leave the glomerulus, which increases pressure within that glomerulus. At the same time, the afferent arteriole dilates, which allows more blood flow into the glomerulus and increases pressure even more. High pressure in the glomerulus leads to an increase in the glomerular filtration rate, which is just the amount of blood filtered through per minute. This is the first stage of diabetic nephropathy, called hyperfiltration. In response to this high-pressure state, the supportive mesangial cells secrete more and more structural matrix, which expands the size of the glomerulus. This matrix deposition and mesangial expansion can happen uniformly, or it can result in little nodules within the mesangium, called Kimmel-Steele-Wilson nodules, which are tiny balls of protein. The thickening of the basement membrane counterintuitively makes it more permeable, allowing proteins like albumin through that otherwise would have been filtered out. It makes sense though if you think about our octopus friend again. As the glomerulus expands, the legs of the octopus naturally have larger gaps between them. In other words, the filtration slits widen, making it easier for substances to slip through. So in the end, the key abnormalities in diabetic nephropathy are a thickened glomerular basement membrane, mesangial expansion, Kimmel-Steele-Wilson nodules, and disruption of the podocytes. Eventually, these changes.
So basically, when the kidneys are supposed to filter the system, and the pressure from diabetes can start to increase pressure in those kidneys and have the kidneys overwork. And the more they overwork, the more it's going to cause problems in the kidneys where they're not able to function properly because they're being overworked. And this is going to cause someone to need dialysis. In medicine, dialysis is the process of removing excess water solids and toxins from the blood in those whose native kidneys have lost the ability to perform these functions in a natural way. And this is referred to as renal replacement therapy. So I'm going to play this video here as well to get an idea of what that is like.
I'm sitting in the hospital and I'm 19 years old. I'm like, no, this is unreal. I had swollen legs, but it was in the summertime. And in my family, you don't go to the doctor unless blood is gushing from the side of your neck. And so my mother would just say, it's the heat, and that's why you have swollen legs. But finally, it got to the point that it was getting really bad. And so when I went to the doctor, they gave me a biopsy. They took a little piece of the kidney to see what was wrong. I'm sitting in the hospital and I'm 19 years old. I'm not going on dialysis. I don't know why you're doing this. I've been doing it for 40 years now, come June.
It's like I'm in prison. It feels like I'm losing time. Every time, A normal day, that's about it. You can't wait to leave, that's for sure. You hate when you sit down in the chair and you can't wait to get out of it. You want the clock to just go fast. Sometimes I imagine the clock going fast, just to calm my nerves down.
Then you go through the stage of just being angry, man, at everybody. Don't look at me. Why? Because you're the nurse and you're not on dialysis and I am on dialysis and I don't like it, But it is a hard life in the beginning until you learn how to just modify your living, modify your life.
I get it.
It's not a comfortable process. Someone who's on dialysis, they might have to go to the clinic 2 or 3 times a week, sit down for a few hours maybe, and basically have their blood taken out and put back in, filtered and then put back in. That's a simplified explanation for it, but it's not a good process, and it's something that it's not something we want to wish on someone. Right? We want to be able to avoid this as much as possible. And that's why you need this information and you need these health emphasis weeks on diabetes so that you can reach people, so you can be able to share this with people. Diabetic ketoacidosis. This condition primarily occurs in type 1 diabetics, and if progressive, can result in coma and death. Frequent urination, severe thirst, severe fatigue, nausea, vomiting, and mental confusion. A lot of times with diabetes, the protein in the body, it will not be able to be used properly. This can cause severe conditions, even things like coma. So that would be diabetes, ketoacidosis. So this is why diabetics sometimes exercise is very good for diabetes, but for type 1 diabetics, sometimes it actually can cause worse conditions if they are not checking their blood sugar levels and they're not able to balance things out. It can lead to ketoacidosis, and this can cause death as well. Nerve damage. Nerve damage in diabetes is called diabetic neuropathy and is caused by disease of small blood vessels. In essence, the blood flow to the nerves is limited, leaving nerves without blood flow, and they get damaged or die as a result. A term known as ischemia. Symptoms of diabetic nerve damage include numbness, burning, and aching of the feet and lower extremities. When the nerve disease causes complete loss of sensation in the feet, patients may not be aware of injuries to the feet and fail to properly protect them. Shoes or other protection should be worn as much as possible. Seemingly minor skin injuries should be attended to promptly to avoid serious infections. Because poor blood circulation, diabetic foot injuries may not heal. And sometimes minor foot injuries can lead to serious infection, ulcers, and even gangrene, necessitating surgical amputation of toes, feet, and other infected parts. What is a diabetic foot ulcer? A diabetic foot ulcer is an open sore or wound that occurs in approximately 15% of patients with diabetes and is commonly located on the bottom of the foot. What does a diabetic sore look like? Diabetic blisters can appear on the back of fingers, toes, and feet, and occasionally on legs or forearms. These sores resemble burn blisters and often occur in individuals with diabetic neuropathy. While they can be large, they are typically painless and lack redness around them. So poor circulation in your feet can affect the very small blood vessels that feed the skin. The lack of healthy blood flow may lead to poor skin repair, allowing skin to break down and not heal properly. This results in a sore. Every 3 minutes and 30 seconds in the United States, a limb is amputated due to diabetes. Amputations are on the rise in the United States. 160,000 people with diabetes undergo amputation each year. And 80% of non-traumatic lower limb amputations happen due to diabetic complications. So every 3 minutes and 30 seconds, that is a lot of people receiving amputation. This presentation has been around 42 minutes so far. Every 3 minutes and 30 seconds has gone by more than a few times. A lot of people are losing their limbs. And so this is why we really need this information. And you guys, learn what you can so you can share it with people. Leviticus 17:11, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. So if there's not blood, there's going to be death, there's going to be decay, and that is going to cause things like amputations. So now I'm going to show some photos now that are not going to be pretty to look at, but I'm just going to caution you first beforehand. If you don't like looking at things that are kind of, they're kind of graphic, you want to turn away right about now. So we're going to actually look at some diabetic foot ulcers and some gangrene sores. It's not pretty, but this is a medical missionary and health emphasis. So we want to be able to actually see these things firsthand. You need to know these things so you can help other people. So I'm just going to give you a warning. It's not going to be pretty. So here we have some of the effects of diabetes. It's not pretty. Lack of circulation, it can cause things like this. Gas gangrene typically affects deep muscle tissue. If you have gas gangrene, the surface of your skin may initially appear normal, but as the condition progresses, your skin may become pale and then evolve to a gray or purplish color. A bubbly appearance to your skin may become apparent, and the affected skin may make a crackling sound when you press on it because of the gas within the tissue. The bacterial infection produces toxins that release gas, hence the name gas gangrene. and cause tissue death. Like wet gangrene, gas gangrene can become life-threatening. Dry gangrene. Dry gangrene is characterized by dry, shriveled skin ranging in color from brown to purplish blue to black. Usually dry gangrene develops slowly and occurs in people who have blood vessel disease such as atherosclerosis. And we have wet gangrene is referred to as wet if there's a bacterial infection in the infected tissue. Swelling, blistering, and a wet appearance are common features of wet gangrene. So we've seen a lot of things, a lot of downer type things. You know what diabetes is? We've seen some of the effects and some of the things that it can cause. But now we want to ascertain the cause. What does diabetes come from? Right? We want to fix the problem. We don't want to just go and, well, this is bad and this is what it causes. But we want to actually know where it comes from so we can avoid those things. So it doesn't take long, right? There's a few things here that can cause diabetes, but we're going to go into it a little bit more. So we have starch, we have processed sugar. So starch, that is foods like breads, pastas, rice. They're high in glucose when absorbed in the body. They're not bad foods. They're not bad foods at all. Spaghetti and rice and bread, those are good foods. And when you eat them, it takes your blood sugar up slowly. It's going to go high, but it's going to go up slowly. And then it's going to come down slowly. So that's what's supposed to happen. So if you eat a good high fiber food that has a lot of glucose, your blood sugar is going to go up slowly, and then it's going to come down slowly. But let's say you eat this Twix bar here, which is processed sugar, your blood sugar level is going to go up really fast and then come down really fast. And that's going to cause problems like diabetes and hyperglycemia later on in life if you're overdoing that process. Both of these foods are good. Well, I mean, not both of these foods. The starch foods are good, but with someone with diabetes, they also have to watch out with eating things like bread, pastas, and rice because it still takes the blood sugar levels high, and because their bodies are not able to bring it down, it can still be a problem. Heavily processed carbohydrates, such as those made with white flour, white sugar, and white rice, are essentially whole food structures with important bran and fiber. And this doctor, she writes, she says, as much as possible, these foods should be eliminated. Because they are so easy to digest, these foods can cause spikes in blood sugar and insulin levels over time, and this can lead to type 2 diabetes. So this is actually a quote from a doctor. She says that as much as possible, we shouldn't be eating highly processed, sugary foods. And it's a recent quote, not that long ago. And so this should actually be really instructive to us because a very long time ago, someone else, if you're aware, wrote something like this. So in the Ministry of Healing, it says, far too much sugar is ordinarily used in foods, cakes, sweet puddings, pastries, jellies, jams, or active causes of indigestion, especially are harmful are custards and puddings in which milk and eggs and sugar are the chief ingredients. The free use of milk and sugar taken together should be avoided. And from the light given meat, sugar, when largely used, is more injurious than meat. These changes should be made cautiously, and the subject should be treated in a manner not to calculate disgust and prejudice in those we would teach and help. So a very long time ago, 1905, 1870, we've been given the same information a very long time ago, as now doctors are saying today. And we should be really way ahead to be able to use some of these things to help other people. So how much added sugar should we consume a day? So this is going to be really important. You're going to get quizzed on this. How much added sugar should we consume a day? According to the American Heart Association, the maximum amount of added sugars you should eat in a day are for men, 9 teaspoons, and for women, 6 teaspoons. So that is the optimal. For men, 9 teaspoons. How much is it? 9 teaspoons for men, 6 teaspoons for women. That's the max amount of added processed sugar we should eat a day. But let's say you want optimal health. You want to be really healthy. And the maximum amount of added sugar you should eat a day is about 6 teaspoons. That is the best for a best plan. So this is not talking about things, sugar in fruits or in foods that already have sugar in them. This is talking about added processed sugar. The max amount we should have is 6 teaspoons for optimal health, or at the very least, men can have 9 teaspoons and women to have 6 teaspoons. And you might think, okay, well, that's not too bad. But if you get a Dove chocolate bar, that's 5 teaspoons of sugar already right there. Butterfinger bars, 6.9 teaspoons. Marshmallows, 14.5. That's twice over the limits. Optimal health. Milky Way bar, 6.5, 8.5 teaspoons of sugar. Snickers bar, 7 teaspoons of sugar. A Twix bar is a little bit better, 2.75 teaspoons. But someone's not going to just eat one, right? They're going to eat more. And so Starbucks packet, 5.5. These are foods heavily, they have heavy amounts of processed sugar that are way above the limit. And it was just Halloween yesterday. There's a whole bunch of people who are eating way too much sugar than they're supposed to have. And these are going to have long-term side effects. So Coca-Cola, this has 14 teaspoons of sugar. That's twice over the maximum limit. Cherry flavor, 6 teaspoons of sugar. And then they have a light version that's 6 teaspoons. These are still really, really high levels of sugar. And you're probably going to eat and do other things along with that that's going to cause problems over time. Sugary beverages like soda, sweet teas, and lemonade are increased with the increased risk of type 2 diabetes. According to a 2010 study in Diabetes Care, drinking 1 to 2 sugary drinks per day increased the risk of type 2 diabetes by 26%, compared with having less than 1 serving a month. So if you're drinking a lot of sugary drinks, your chances of diabetes are increased by 26%. And so this includes all different types of sugary beverages, including fruit drinks. So we think fruit is good, I should be able to do fruit, but this can also cause problems if we're eating a lot of sugary fruit drinks. You take all the fiber out of the fruit drinks, then it's just sugar water, really. I'm not saying you can't ever have a fruit drink, but you've taken away a lot of the properties that help you. So now it's not healthy as you would think it would be. To stay hydrated, drink more water. Also avoiding your coffee, tea with cream and things like that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead here. I'm gonna play this video here so you can get an idea of what sugary drinks can do to you.
Sugar is a simple carbohydrate made of 2 molecules, glucose and fructose. This bond is cleaved in the gut before they're absorbed. It's been shown that glucose mainly drives fat storage under the skin, and fructose deposits fat around organs like the liver.
When you make extra liver fat, that liver fat ends up mucking up the workings of the liver, and you end up with a phenomenon called insulin resistance. The liver doesn't work right, so the pancreas has to make extra insulin. And it also causes hypertension, changes in the brain that might result in altered cognitive function and possibly even dementia. It can increase cell proliferation, which can cause cancer. It can cause vascular smooth muscle proliferation, which can cause heart disease.
Sugar can also accelerate aging.
When you paint your barbecued meat with barbecue sauce, it browns faster. Well, that's happening inside your body. It's known as the browning or the Maillard reaction. And it is the thing that causes cellular aging. And the reason you do it with fructose is because it browns better. This is the reason that fructose has been added to bread. It browns virtually all foods better. Well, it browns your insides better too. And as that happens, you are aging faster. If you had a glass of fruit juice this morning, you're aging 7 times quicker.
Fructose fructose is mainly found in fruit. That's why they call it fruit sugar. Now, you might be thinking, how can it be bad for me if it's found in a health food? Well, let me explain. You could easily drink a glass of apple juice before dinner, but if you had to have the equivalent in whole fruit, you probably wouldn't finish your meal. You see, juicing fruit removes all the fibrous pulp, so you can take in a whole lot more calories without feeling as full. So if you're going to eat fruit, stick to whole fruit because it has a lot more fibre, and it's the fibre that tames your insulin response to sugar. Chronically high levels of fructose is not only toxic to your liver, it messes with the hormones that control appetite.
There is a hormone in your stomach called ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. When your stomach is empty, ghrelin goes up, tells your brain, hey, time to eat. Then you eat, ghrelin goes down, and so hunger goes away. But when you consume sugar, fructose does not get registered by the brain as you having eaten. Ghrelin doesn't change. You stay hungry.
These are some things we need to be aware of. Sugar, it can increase aging. It also takes maybe water out of the skin as well, and it can increase aging. And this is something to be aware. And also, fruit drinks, they're not bad in themselves. Once in a while, you're going to have a fruit drink, but you got to know that it's not a health food. You're taking the fiber out, and you have to really be careful with that. Smoothies, that's a lot better. It still has fiber in it. But just drinking a fruit drink, you have to be careful. So, there's different types of sugar. Sometimes they'll recommend that you use brown sugar instead of white sugar. But I want to say that that's not really true. So brown sugar can come in many different names and varieties. It can therefore come by different names such as light brown, dark brown, golden brown, or golden yellow brown. And they are all just blends of white sugar with different amounts of molasses added. It can therefore have a quite different taste compared to white sugar. The uses of brown sugar in biscuits, gingerbread, carrot cakes, and tarts. So you think brown sugar is like brown rice or brown bread. It doesn't really work that way. It's just sugar and it just has a different color. It's just a food coloring, you could say. There's no actual difference between brown sugar and white sugar. Now, there's also raw sugar. It has a slightly darker color compared to white sugar. And this comes from the molasses that is left on the sugar crystals. It is partially refined, retaining 4% molasses. Because of this, it's a slightly different flavor. It's a better sugar than brown or white. But even then, you have to be careful. It's not really healthier in a full sense. I mean, I'm gonna just be honest. Brown sugar, white sugar, raw sugar, they're not that different. They're not different from each other. There's no fiber in sugar. There's no things like that to really make sugar healthier. It doesn't work like that. So these are just things you should be aware of. Go ahead here. Go ahead here. Okay, vitamin C is a crucial compound for protecting our cells, adding to collagen levels of our skin, and keeping us healthy. Dogs and cats are able to synthesize their vitamin C, so there's no need for them to eat vitamin C-rich foods. Humans do not have this ability, and we must get our vitamin C from the diet or from supplements. Our cells have receptors that invite certain compounds to gain access. The specific receptor for vitamin C is the same receptor that allows glucose or sugar to enter. So because the cell has greatly affinity for glucose compared to vitamin C, if sugar levels in the body are elevated due to poor diet, the cells will absorb sugar, disallowing room for vitamin C to be taken up by our cells. So let's say you're sick, you got a cold, and you take one of those vitamin C gummies, right? That's not going to do you any good because it has sugar. So this is things you have to be aware of. Just because it's vitamin C, if it has any sugar, your body's going to choose the sugar over the vitamin C. So that's really important. Um, Sugar has a lot of effects, and some of them are going to be negative, like taking away nutrients from your body. Some foods that are high in vitamin C, you have mangoes, um, cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. Kiwi is really good, has high in vitamin C. Papaya, also very high in vitamin C. Um, and bell pepper and these other things, they're very high in vitamin C. It's not just in things like oranges, it's in many other foods. Broccoli, it's also very high in vitamin C. There's also different honeys, like floral honeys have a lower GI, which have less effect on blood glucose levels, which mean they can be eaten with people with diabetes. Now, this is not in every case. In every case, that's not true for every person, but sometimes it is better. If you're going to use any sweetener, floral honeys, they're better off. This has been often proposed by researchers, but the amount of use in testing are modest. So there's different ones like string bark, river gum, yellow box, spotted gum, iron bark, Tasmanian tree. These are all different type of honeys that they make from herbs and trees, and they have a lower sugar content. Now, this is not just something that you're going to have to eat cake every day. If it has floral honeys, that's definitely not going to work. Even with people with diabetes, you're just going to have to be careful. But this is something you can look into. It's going to be better than normal sweeteners. There's a list of high glycemic foods that diabetics will need to watch out for. So these foods are good foods. They're not bad in themselves, but for a diabetic, they need to watch out for some of these foods. So potatoes are good. They have almost all the essential nutrients that a person needs. But for a diabetic, they are going to raise their blood sugar levels too high, and they might not be able to eat potatoes, or they might have to have like a half of a potato. But these are things you have to watch out for. There's nothing wrong with potatoes, again. But for a diabetic, they might have to avoid potatoes or eat very small amounts of them. Rice. So rice, again, there's nothing wrong with rice. But for a diabetic, they might not be able to have rice at all because its glycemic level is too high. It will bring the blood sugar up too quickly. There's also carrots. Carrots are really good foods, but for a diabetic, they might not be able to eat carrots. And then lastly, fruit. So fruit, of course, is good. We need to be able to eat fruit, but for a diabetic, a lot of sweet fruits they might have to avoid. Sometimes they can do berries and cherries and kiwi, some citrus fruits, but on average, they're going to not be able to have as many fruits. These are good foods, but for a diabetic, it's just something they need to watch out for. And brown rice, someone asked about brown rice. So in the body, it is going to really be about the same for a diabetic. Maybe some diabetics, it won't be as much of a problem, but for the most part, brown rice is going to be as bad for a diabetic, and they'll have to watch out for that. So fruit in themselves, are they bad? Some people ask, is fruits bad because they're sweet? The reality is that eat more fruits and vegetables. This is common. This is a common health food recommendation. Everyone knows fruits are healthy. They're real whole foods, and most of them are also very convenient. Some people call them nature's fast food, but they're high in sugar, so you might wonder, are they healthy after all? A lot of evidence has shown that excessive sugar intake is harmful. This includes table sugars, corn syrup, half fructose. These can all be damaging. But eating whole fruits is almost impossible to consume enough fructose to cause harm. Fruits are loaded with fiber, water, and have significant chewing resistance. For this reason, most fruits, like apples, take a while to eat and digest, meaning that fructose hits the liver slowly. Plus, fruit is incredibly filling. Most people will feel satisfied after eating one large apple, which contains 23 grams of sugar, of which are fructose. So, apples, for someone who's not a diabetic, these are going to be perfectly good. You're not going to get diabetes from eating apples. That's just not going to happen. Now, there might be some other foods that if you're not balanced with things like rice and breads and starchy foods, those things can give you diabetes if you're not careful. But that's not going to happen with fruits. There's enough fiber that your body's able to balance it out. Compare that to a 16-ounce bottle of Coke, which contains 52 grams of sugar, 30 of which are fructose and has no nutritional value. A single apple would make you feel you quite full and less inclined to eat more food. Conversely, a bottle of soda has remarkably poor satiety. People don't compensate the sugar by eating less food. So a Coke is just going to be a lot more hazardous, and it's not going to do what a fruit can do if you are having a balanced lifestyle. You can see some of the teaspoons of sugars in different fruits. Mangoes 3.2, bananas 3 teaspoons, apples 2.6. These are all very small amounts, and your body, when it has fiber, is able to actually deal with it, so it won't cause any problems in the body. God says, "Behold, I've given you every green herb, bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, which is the fruit of the tree, yielding seed to you, it shall be for meat." So God gave this to us, and He made sure that it would not be something that would be harmful to us. So milk, a variant of beta-casein known as A1 beta-casein, has been implicated in causing type 1 diabetes in genetically vulnerable children. A1 beta-casein may set off an immune response that later turns against the beta cells in the pancreas. Children who drink cow milk have been found more likely to develop type 1 diabetes later on in life. So basically what this is saying, milk, it has an enzyme called A1 beta-casein, which when it's put into the body, it causes an immune response. So remember, we talked about the immune system is supposed to attack germs and viruses, but if the immune system is not working properly, it starts to attack itself. And so milk, it's cow's milk. It's not made for us. We're human beings, and cows, they're cows. Children, especially, they're more vulnerable to this thing. So their immune system is not developed properly yet. And so some children, they drink cow's milk, it causes an immune response, and that immune response will attack their beta cells in their pancreas, and that can cause type 1 diabetes. So we got to be aware of this. There's so many different alternatives out there now. We don't really need to have cow's milk. You can just use other much healthier and safer alternatives. So, okay. There's also fats. Carbohydrates usually come to mind when someone is thinking about reducing the risk of diabetes, but fat is also an important nutrient to consider. Compared to carbohydrates, protein, which have 4 calories per gram, fat has 9 calories per gram. That means the fat has more than twice the amount of calories in the same amount that a carbohydrate protein have combined. So fat is just going to be as much of a problem as sugar if it's not in a balanced condition. Dietary fat does not have immediate effect on blood sugar levels, but consuming a meal high in fat can slow digestion and make it more difficult for insulin to work correctly. Saturated or bad fat comes mostly from animal products and causes the body to make cholesterol, which increases the risk of heart disease. So things like butter, cheese, meat, they're all going to have saturated fat, and this is going to cause a lot of problems. Trans fatty acids, they're actually so created when fat is put into a machine and blowed air into it to make it more stable and saturated. And this is going to be even worse than saturated fat. Trans fatty acids, they're way worse, and your body does not able to process them at all. Then you have unsaturated fat or good fats, are liquid at room temperature and are mostly found in plant oils. Unsaturated fats can actually improve blood cholesterol levels. There are 2 types of unsaturated fats. You have monosaccharide found in olive oil, avocado, nuts, and seeds, and also canola oil. So I wouldn't recommend that oil, but it is found in that as well. And polyunsaturated fats found in sunflower, corn, soybean, flaxseed oils, walnuts, flaxseed, fish, and also canola oil again. So these are fats that are better for you than the other ones. They're going to also help with diabetes to keep your diabetes under control. And again, you got to do everything in a moderation. Plenty of fruits and vegetables. That's one of your main meals needs to be that. But along with that, having a lot of good oils, they're going to keep your blood sugar levels controlled. So we're about to end soon. So briefly, I want to do a questionnaire. So I'm going to ask everyone in the chat some questions and see what they answer, and then we'll close, and then we'll do some other. You guys can ask me questions directly after that. So I don't know if they want to answer in the chat or through voice, whatever is best. But I'm going to do a questionnaire. So our first questionnaire or question is, what is the role of insulin in regulating blood sugar levels? So what is the role of insulin when it comes to regulating blood sugar levels? Who has the answer? Anyone has the answer. What is the role of insulin in regulating blood sugar levels? What does insulin do? Okay, it allows glucose into the cells. Anyone want to expound on that just a little bit? Anything? What does insulin do exactly? That's a good answer, but anyone, maybe they can expound on it.
It talks to the cell.
It talks to the cell? Okay, talks to the cell?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone said it is the key. It is the key. It gets the sugar into the cell so the cell has energy. Okay, those are all good. Anyone else?
It locks the door, open the door, or tells the door when to open, something like that.
Okay, it locks, opens the door. It is the key. I think that was my favorite answer there. Esther Rollins, she said it is the key. And so what insulin does, it opens the door to allow sugar into the cell. It's like a key. It connects the receptors in our cells, opens the door, and that lets glucose into the cells, and that's how we feel energy. That is what insulin does. So next question. According to the presentation, how does consuming too much highly processed carbohydrates affect blood sugar? So this is going to be highly processed foods, okay? Like it elevates it, okay? Elevates it. Anyone will be more specific. So things like breads and well, not breads, but things like white bread, for example, or candy bars or Coca-Colas. They're highly processed carbohydrates. How do they affect blood sugar levels?
Well, I think it naturally allows you to consume more than is needed or necessary. So, and it has no fiber.
Okay, so it's has no fiber and it's going to increase blood sugar levels. So what it does, it takes your blood sugar up too quickly and it drops really quickly. That's what it does. It causes blood sugar levels to rapidly increase. That is right. What is the main differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Anyone has the answer to that?
One is lifestyle, and the other one, you're kind of born with it, I think. I don't know.
Born and develop. Okay, so one you're born with, and the other one you develop, and it's progressive and slow. What are list 3 common symptoms of diabetes? What's the 3 common symptoms?
Thirst,
Okay, that's one.
urination, frequent urination,
Okay, frequent urination.
blurry eyes.
Okay, blurry eyes. Okay, so those are the questionnaires now. I'm going now to transition for you guys to ask me some questions. So I will have part 2 and be able to do more next week. If you guys can ask me some questions, and I'll do my best to answer that.
Folks, if you have questions, just open your mic and speak. You can also raise your hand and I can call on you just so we're a little bit more organized. But while you're doing that, let me just ask everybody to remember that healing of the nation depends on your support. So if you feel like you can support our ministry, there's so many ways to do it. You can do that by donating financially. If you look at the screen, you'll see a slide that gives the different ways to donate. We make it very easy these days. You can just go on your phone and donate via Zelle, or you can mail a check to Healing of the Nations, P.O. Box 1174, Valley Stream, New York 11582. Do not send cash. If you need consultation, call us 516-777-0868. And our email is hon.ministry@gmail.com. We're also looking for hosts. We're looking for people to host. For example, today, our regular host wasn't able to be here. We had a volunteer that was supposed to come, but something happened and she couldn't make it. So I am here to fill in. So we need hosts. Please, if you have talent and you can speak, don't be shy. We need you. We need your support. We need support on the tech team. We're a small ministry with a small team, but it takes people and bodies to make this work, and we don't want to overwhelm our folks, so we need backup. So I hope that, if you feel like God has given you an ability, whether to host or to be a panelist or to be a prayer intercessor or to sing, we'd be happy to have you. So on that note, I'm going to turn it back to the speaker, and I see Al has a hand raised. Al, you can open up your mic and speak.
So I wrote a question in the chat, and I was wondering, when you do your regular lipid panel, when you go see your doctor annually and they do a lab, does that indicate whether you have you're diabetic or pre-diabetic? How do you know, or how do you check for it?
I mean, usually it was going to be a specific test. A1C test is like a specific test that they're going to do on you, where they're going to measure you for a period of time. For like 3 months. So just a regular checkup. If they check your blood sugar levels, that can tell you a lot. It's not necessarily going to tell you have diabetes unless you do an A1C test. If you have some of the factors that might contribute to you having diabetes, you might want to get it checked out. Whatever it might be, overweight or lifestyle things. Just you have the symptoms. Tingling in the feet, increased
Lipid
circulation.
study your cholesterol and so forth.
Yeah, I mean that can be a factor, but for diabetes, particularly, you have the A1C test, and you have to check your blood sugar levels. That will definitely tell you. Yeah.
The A1C for diabetes and lipids is for your cholesterol.
Yes.
Okay, so I have to specifically ask them to check my A1C because it's not a part of the normal.
It should be.
lab?
It should be a part of your normal yearly checkup.
Okay. Thank you.
If that was included, then it would be. But I'm not sure what everything they involved, but particularly I know the A1C test is what would do that.
No, it's not part of your basic. I even had a person in my class and asked her doctor to do an A1C and he refused.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
So someone asked, why is olive oil not good? It might have been a misunderstanding. Olive oil is good. There's nothing wrong with olive oil. We shouldn't fry with it, because frying kind of destroys the purpose of it. But olive oil is a good oil. It's a good unsaturated fat, and it actually lowers our cholesterol. I know someone else mentioned grapeseed oil, and I know I mentioned canola oil.
Canola oil and grapes.
Yeah, from what I know, it's the processing of how those things are
the
made.
worst oil ever.
Yeah, it's the processing of how they're made in factories. They cause different problems like with cancer and other things. So it's not the oils themselves, but it's like however they're processed. That's why we shouldn't have them. But olive oil is good. There's nothing wrong with olive oil. If your A1C test tastes at a steady 5.7, will this change your risk or percentage of diabetic retinopathy and nerve damage? Steady 5.7. If it's 5.7 and it's not going up more, you might be okay. You might be okay.
That's a good range.
Yeah, it's not a bad range.
That's a good range.
Yeah,
Some doctors might say you're pre-diabetic, but that's a good range. Anything
Yeah,
past that to 6, you're going into pre-diabetic. But
yeah,
5.67 is a good range. It's a, normal
yeah,
range.
yeah. If it's staying there and you're not having any symptoms, you're probably okay. I mean, it's still good though to go on a good lifestyle, go on a detox, and try to eat better. But usually that should be okay.
Yep. There's a question in the chat that says, why can some people gain excess weight and do not develop diabetes, while others can stay slim and they're diabetic?
Well, there's like multiple factors that can do that. Some people they have different metabolisms. Their
Right.
bodies are just able to metabolize things better. That genetics is a factor there. I mean, what they say though, the genetics is like it's a gun, but your
Load the
lifestyle it pulls
gun
the
and
trigger.
lifestyle pull the
Yeah,
trigger.
yeah. So I mean, if you live in bad lifestyle, then and you already have genetics that are predisposed for it, you're definitely going to have it. And some people, they're just their family and their lifestyle, and their genetics are better, and they just don't have any problem with it. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah,
But I do,
this might not be related, but I'd recommend that this person, Raul, on an iPhone said kidney pain cases and remedies. Could you please help? I have a lot of pain at the moment.
mm,
So, I mean, I don't know how you want to address that. I'm thinking that maybe they should contact you offline, and I've put your contact information in the chat.
yeah. Our ministry is put in the chat, Centurion Bible School of Health, and you can contact that for more information. But if you have kidney pain, you probably should get that checked out to see what's causing the pain, because it could be a lot of different things. So you should get that checked out. I mean, some herbs that you could use, corn silk tea is good. Hydrotherapy is good, but you should really call us and also probably, get get checked out to see exactly what's causing that. So,
Good evening. My name's Courtney. I don't know how to raise my hand. So can you hear me?
Yes, Courtney, go ahead.
Hey, to expound on my question about having a steady 5.7 A1C, I know for a fact I'm a diabetic. I was diagnosed 2 years ago, type 2, and I take a medication that seems to keep me at a steady 5.7. So I was just wondering if that helped, because it seemed in the video that it's without a doubt a high percentage after 5 to 10 years you're going to lose your sight.
mhm. Yeah, it's not something that's going to work with everybody. Some people are different and they have different results, so it's not a general rule for every person. But generally, if your blood sugar levels is high, the 5.7 isn't bad. So, but if it was high and it's at a high level for a long period of time, you're going to have problems. But I can't say that you particularly are going to have diabetic retinopathy. We don't know, but
Right.
I would recommend, just in general, um, get on a good program, try to change your lifestyle, because uh, at our ministry Centurion, people come 2 weeks, they have diabetes 2 weeks, they don't need their glucose medication anymore. So it's possible to get over it. It's like really easy if you go on a good lifestyle. And so,
Yes. Please put his info in the chat so I can reach out.
yeah,
Yeah,
whoever
She
it's
has
said
in
it,
she's
there,
on
but
medication.
I'll repost it.
Is she taking medication to maintain that range?
Yes, I am.
Well, you need to change your lifestyle and go on a diet that can either take you off the medication, because sometimes, I'm not telling you to get off your medication, but I'm saying sometimes being on medication and the side effects of that medication can cause you to have retinopathy with your eyes. So
Okay.
you have to try get on a diet, a lifestyle change diet that will help you keep your blood sugar down by doing exercise and all those things, because the medication, long-term use of the medication, can cause you to have that side effect.
Okay, yeah. I've already had cataract surgery. I have slight glaucoma, so I will definitely
yeah,
look into that. Thank you.
yeah. Um, Someone else asked, if you received an A1C test and the results came back numbering 6.7, does that indicate that you are 100% diabetic? The only symptom would be frequent urination. I can't say 100%, but there's a good chance that the question is yes, especially if you have frequent urination, and you're not drinking a whole lot of water. That could very well be a sign that you have diabetes. And if you're checking it and it's always at 6.7 and you're having that symptom, don't take a chance. You want to go on a lifestyle program. Even if you don't have it, it's still good to, go on a lifestyle program. So you might not have it yet, but you might be almost there and you don't want to risk it. So I just recommend getting on a good program.
This is going to be
The
my
range,
last question, and then we can wrap up. Since we're against time. My question is, how does somebody reverse diabetes in 2 weeks? You said they come to your center, and after 2 weeks, they don't need medication anymore. What is it that you do that gives them this kind of outcome? And then after
So
you answer the question, maybe you could tell us about what part two is entail, since this is a series, and tonight is not all. You're going to be back next week.
yeah, so your question is kind of interrelated with the second question. So a lot of that we're going to be covering in the second part. So we'll go over some things that you can do. But primarily, you're going to come here. We're going to change your lifestyle, get you on a plant-based diet. Make sure to check your blood sugar levels constantly and see where they're ranging at. There's herbs that we use: L-arginine, string bean tea, um, berberine, golden seal. These are all herbs that are really good for balancing blood sugar levels. Exercise. You're going to get out of nature, and your body is able to recover if you make those changes and you add some good herbs and minerals into the lifestyle. But a lot of that's going to be covered next time, so we'll definitely be able to come back to that.
All right. Well, we are beyond our normal time, but I just want to say on behalf of Healing of the Nations Ministry, our heartfelt thanks to you, Elder Wilson. This was indeed a very powerful and enlightening presentation. I did not like to see those images, but that's okay. I had to look away. Your dedication to this gospel medical missionary work and your passion for restoring health, both physically and spiritually, have truly been a blessing to us this evening. It was echoed throughout your presentation. Your message was not only informative, but it was life-changing. For me, I'm going to stay away from sugar because I never, ever want to get diabetes. And seeing how much sugar is in one glass of Coca-Cola. I mean, I don't drink Coca-Cola, but I like ginger beer. And ginger beer, I was looking at it, it had 38 grams of sugar. And then you're saying I should only be having 6. And sometimes, I'm having 2 bottles of ginger beer. So that was quite eye-opening for me. Thank you. But we're grateful, for the clarity that you've provided tonight, the conviction and the compassion that you brought to the session. And we pray that the seeds that you've planted will continue to bear fruits in the lives of everybody that showed up and everybody that listened. So we know you'll be back next week, and we can't wait to hear about next week's presentation. I personally won't be here, but hopefully I'll be able to catch the recording. But in the meantime, what can I do is pray for your continued strength and your protection and your divine guidance over your ministry as you continue to reach thousands of people across the nation and in this generation. So you've been a vessel of healing and a vessel of truth. And we're really honored that you actually said yes. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you.
So I hope you can bless us with a closing prayer. But before you do that, I just want to say to everybody that's on, we have a breakout room. So if you have questions or concerns, or if you just like to pray or to kind of get connected to one of our health coaches, just raise your hand and our tech team will put you into the breakout room. Or if you're very technically savvy, you can look on your device and you'll see breakout room and just join the one that says prayer. So thank you. Thank you again, Brother Elder Wilson. I'm going to turn it over to you for a closing prayer.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I want to thank you for this time to come and see some of what you've done, Lord, in our bodies, Lord. How you've made us, Lord, and how you want us to live and to act so that we can glorify you. Thank you for guiding us and leading us day by day in Jesus' name. And thank you for this Sabbath day that is closing now. In Jesus' name, amen.